Hello, long time no see, huh? Today is the 5-year anniversary of my last Melee video, and to make it even worse, I said this.
They say that you can't truly quit Melee, to which I say fuck off.
Egg on my face aside, the last 5 years have been an intensive exercise in self-discovery and introspection, and I would like to talk about that, and how it relates to the greatest game ever made. Okay, quick background that no one cares about. I played Melee as a kid, I discovered it competitively with some friends about 15, and I created Melee YouTube videos not too long after. To give context of my life up until that point, I kind of felt like I'd been sleepwalking through life. Nothing until that point had demanded the self-reflection and improvement that Melee really requires to some degree, right? And I was hooked instantly. I'd never really been or done anything before, so the fact that I have suddenly been introduced to this thing where I can improve if I really try, I suddenly felt like I could do something, anything. And so before I knew it, I had played a lot of Melee, and I felt like I had somewhere where I belonged. I could go to events. People would come up to me and say, "Oh hey, you're that one Link player, right?" That was so much more than anything I'd ever had before. And I was a shitter, right? I still am a shitter. But for the first time, I felt like I could improve and do things and actually feel pride in like what I was doing. But whilst this exciting development in Melee was happening for me, school was about to get a whole lot harder. Pressures were starting to rise as I was progressing through the years, exams were getting so much more high stakes, and it was going to become a real problem. The older, more experienced me can look back now and tell that every single day in photography class, I was on the verge of having a panic attack, but 17-year-old me didn't have the life experience or the words to be able to communicate that. And so I was left in a situation where at school, no one could really understand me, and as a result, I kind of felt like everyone else was like the enemy, right? And so school-wise, I just kind of said, fuck 'em, you know? Every day after school, I would either play Melee or make Melee videos, and in break times, I would either be reviewing my gameplay VODs and making notes, or I would be writing scripts for videos. It really kind of just was my escape, where I could meet other people, make videos, and eventually I started gaining views and subscribers, and it wasn't a lot, right? I didn't get a huge amount, it wasn't a career, but even the idea that a single person would watch something I made and feel better about their day was huge for me. And stupidly, it kind of became like a duty almost to me, which, if you don't know, is really not good. So as my school life and Melee life became increasingly high stakes in my mind, things got really quite bad for a while. I think the highlight, or low light as it were, was one day I just kind of snapped and I broke, and I went straight at the start of school to the nurse's office, and I sat down and I explained to them in no uncertain terms that I truly did not care if I lived or died, which, credit to them in a sense, must have been a difficult situation, but apparently that doesn't technically count as being suicidal, so they were just kind of like, okay, send them home for a couple of days, and then 2 days later, I was back at school. And all of this was happening whilst I was making videos, and, you know, putting on a big old smile and doing a show and dance and everything, whilst that was happening in the background, didn't feel right, you know? Eventually school ended, and I was able to detach from one of the many stresses in my life, and coincidentally, in Melee, I was starting to hit kind of a brick wall with my improvement. It was becoming a lot harder to improve. I felt like my mind was kind of clouded. I couldn't really think straight and properly. It was just a bit too much. And so I kind of threw out the baby with the bathwater, I guess. In an attempt to make a clean slate of my life, I threw out the game that sort of meant most to me. And because I'm a moron, I made a YouTube video about it. The next 5 years following were good for me. They weren't necessarily good to me, but I'm happy I had them. I largely stopped competing. There was a few months of outlying where I, played a little bit, but largely I stopped playing. But even then, as a spectator, I love the storylines and the high-level gameplay. I love watching how dynamic it is. And still, even now, playing it, it just feels so refreshing and nice and creative. I still think it's the best game in the world, and I still love it so much. So, what actually happened in these past 5 years that I haven't been here? Well, let's have a look. I went to uni, realized I wasn't straight. That was a fun one. Got diagnosed with depression, got my life back on track, graduated, lost control of my life again, got a job, got my life back on track, then landed a better job. And, well, I mean, essentially, through all of those, 15 different character arcs, Melee was still there. Melee was still in my portfolio for creative work. It was these videos, right? I still played Melee. Smash Ultimate came out, made me realize all over again why I love Melee. Slippy came out. Fucking Slippy! It's amazing. My job was so much harder before Slippy. Imagine Controller Condemnation, where I could just launch Slippy. It would have been so much easier. And all in all, Melee taught me how to self-reflect, how to improve, how to feel pride in my work, how to put myself out there, talk to people. It improved my life and was the building blocks of me becoming a functioning human being, and without discovering it, it's genuinely horrific to think about where my life might be, even if there was a good stretch of time where I didn't play it all that much. I don't really know. I don't really know how much more I will be uploading, Maybe this is the last video forever. Maybe I go on to make this a big thing again. I genuinely just don't know. But what I do know is that when I made videos 5 years ago, I asked myself, why? Why did I make these videos? And I think, honestly speaking, the most important or most prominent thing then was I wanted the attention. I wanted views and subscribers to go up, and I wanted to make that like a thing. And then I swiftly realized that I don't really like attention all that much. It's just not that big of a deal for me, right? So I'm asking myself again, why do I want to make videos for Melee, for this 20-old-year game? Well, I love it. And I think if you've been in the Melee community for any length of time, you know that Melee keeps going if people keep loving Melee. If people keep playing it, if people keep going to events, if people making dogshit videos on it, then people keep playing it and it keeps going. And I love Melee and I want it to keep going. So that's, I guess, why I want to do this. If you've reached this far, then thanks. If you remember me, that's insane. Every now and then I get a new comment on a video and it's just like, Zam, people are still here. God damn. Yeah, that's my piece. Until next time, good luck and have fun.